Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It is the 1st of April 2025, and wow, what a fun time it is to be alive, depending upon which way you are looking at the material and reality at the moment. Uh, I suppose if I give a little bit of a preface before this evening, I am just going to shoot straight from the hip. It's going to be rather direct, and I think a lot of you are pretty thirsty for it. To be quite honest, the language across the Skinner boxes and echo chambers has been changing now for a good part of a few months, but there definitely has been whether it's an algorithm shift or the EQ emotionalism cult have ran out of gas. And, they're, well, we're not even going to really get into them just yet, but let's just rip the band-aids off, rest into a comfortable position, and let's rock and roll. Tonight's the topic is the game and the reckoning. Now, there are so many different ways I could go about this, and it has been on my table for quite some time with my own personal direction with what I do next. As I said before, conversations are beginning to open up. Well, it is my opinion that a lot of the wetware programming is breaking apart. A lot of the language manipulation, I think a lot of folks are really coming to terms with that, both on a personal level and external. And a lot of the talking heads that have a lot to say about lives they've never lived, or speak about experiences they've never really experienced. You can see where they're really at the moment, because it's almost like a rinse and repeat with feel good, sound good, how to kind of blah, blah, and fall under the weight of their own hypocrisy the moment that there's a check in place. But if you were to ask them, they do their shadow work and they do their talk therapy work and console themselves in a blue light spectrum utopia that doesn't actually really exist. And at the forefront of the reckoning, which is really this, okay, the underpinning of society is violence. Okay, the governments have had a monopoly on that for a long time. And what did take place, it started in 89 with the introduction of PC culture, all the NGO stuff, which a lot of people are up to speed with now, which is great. But that got outsourced into this PC therapy talk kind of culture, where you have people that have just been able to say whatever it is that their opinionated facts actually are. But there's a lot of Dunning-Kruger involved. And it has warped the intellect of the culture. And there's also another metric to be able to test a culture on, which is very real, which is, if you want to see the health of a culture, just have a look at its art and the art that it promotes. Now, has there been other things taking place that have pushed certain shit into the forefront? Absolutely. And that's essentially where we're at. So, there's choice points across the board everywhere at the moment. Everyone seems to have an opinion about what the problems are without actually looking at the problem from any type of intellectual knowledge based, even looking at data sets or studies. It seems to be all of this EQ kind of talk, emotional intelligence, which is more emotionalism than anything else. But let's get into it, shall we? Just going straight off the bat. So, the game. Violence is the underpinning of society. Yeah, always has been. Will it always be? No. But the reckoning of that is you're starting to see it, particularly across Europe. Yeah. And why is that? Well, there has been a globalization agenda in play to kick the can, so to speak, or a part of their planning that goes back over 100 years to get to this point, to play out some type of biblical proportion. Now, if you were to have a look at the health of the EU and NATO, it is falling apart big time. Will it survive the next few months? I highly doubt it. But what does that actually mean? Well, there's a lot of yelling and screaming, yeah, but there's something that has continually been forgotten. It is men who are men that actually will dictate upon what kind of happens next. And Western culture has decided that they are toxic, they are this, they are that. Let's remove the actual foundation or pillars of Western democracy and instill this almost fantasy type of utopia. And it's not going well. Seeing what Conor McGregor's just recently done, and I mentioned this like a couple of months ago, which was always a marker for me to be able to see. I am a man of the West, but to have Catholics and Protestants standing together who have essentially been at like their throats forever together in unison about very specific subjects. And one of those very specific subjects is the indigenous people of that land. Oh my God, are white people indigenous? Yeah. The whole lot of Europe is, isn't it? A lot of people forget about history, and there is a massive renaissance actually going on. If you're paying attention and listening to the right people that are men of knowledge, that have subject matter expertise and can actually debate said subjects, you'll be getting a gauge upon where we're at in this game and the reckoning of it. And it's not going to end well. And there's going to be a power vacuum. I've been banging on about this for years. And I suppose what I say to you, both men of knowledge and to the sisters who are muses or are coming into their own at the moment, it's pick a lane time. Yeah, it really is. Because if you continue to listen to these, I don't even want to call them a name, but these people that have a lot to say about absolutely everything, particularly about lives they've never lived or experiences never had, you would think that they have some type of authority. But the reality of it is that they've been living behind a blue light prison, yeah, and a lot of it is nonsense. They can't actually stand under the weight of their own questioning. So there is this, outsourced PC therapy type talk that's been hoodwinked into the culture as like this defense mechanism. It's fucking everywhere. And here are these, let's say, two forces, so to speak, kind of at each other, and which one is going to be of an ascendance. Hate to be the bearer of fantastic news, it's going to be the ones that are able to actually draw a line in the real world and go, hang on a moment, this is really where we're at, really, really where we're at. And if you are not paying attention to the game, well, I don't know where your fucking head's at, really, because there's a lot of I call them the ratchet spiritualist and ratchet truthers at the moment that seem to have everything worked out, but it's all very reactionary, and where does their information or their subject matter expertise actually come from? Now, I've written a bit of a, I suppose, checklist here, more so for you guys to write down as a little bit of a reference, one for yourself, most importantly, so that you can actually see things as they are in your own world and go, hang on a moment, there's some things here that I actually need to really have a look at, but also to identify these jokers, because it's all echo chamber, Skinner box type stuff. And if you do not actually realize that the game is that these platforms are doing your thinking for you, if you actually don't know. It's all good and well to understand what Yuri Bezmenov was speaking about, ideological subversion. But if you don't really understand the depths upon which it has been interfacing with you since the invent of fourth generation, I don't care all the Jungian, all the other things that you think you're into, you're not even on the same checkerboard. Yeah, because there are things that are right here in front of us now that are, I don't want to say earth shattering, but there's the architecture upon which we believe we have safety within. It's not essentially there at the moment. And I'll just throw a couple of examples. Okay. There's a proxy war going on, has been for a while in Yemen. What is that really all about? No one's really speaking about it, are they? But if you were to go into the ratchet truth of vortex, it's just let me sit there and say something and regurgitate my confirmation bias without actually really understanding that has the key ingredients to stir up a massive fucking war in the Middle East with Iran and all the rest of it. People paying attention to that? No, of course not. Yeah. If you go and have a look at that, there's some serious shit going on there, particularly in that region of Africa as well. Why? Because it's resource rich with so many different things, which is whoever is going to be in control of that stuff is, through this side of the vacuum, going to have the minerals to create some of the technology that's in the new world, so to speak, that is right in front of your face. Another one is this. I'll get into the list first. Okay, so here it is. The people that you're actually watching and listening to at the moment, are they actually just following trends and repeating things in a feel-good, sound-good type of environments for cheap clicks? Yeah, is there actually anything really that they're saying that is beneficial to you to form a consensus upon knowledge, or actually developing in a particular way? If not, get rid of it, gotta go. Yeah, your attention and your focus and your will needs to be in your own sovereign domain at the moment. And running around in echo chambers because of some type of truth attainment or being entertained, what are you doing? To know and not do is to not know. So if you know, have you got the steps in place to actually counteract the wetware programming that has been infected into your brain, that the machine is actually doing your thinking for you? I know it's not nice to say, but I'm giving you game right now. Okay. And then here we go. The other one is, what truths are actually being spoken about, yeah, that actually lead to anywhere? Or is it still this kind of hypnosis upon even that word? Yeah. Is it one an echo chamber? Is someone actually trying to inform you? Is one actually giving you parts of information and knowledge for you to actually walk away with? And okay, here's some other things that actually might be of an interest for me to develop my position as I move through into this fucking crazy world that we're on the precipice for. Now, here's the kicker. Okay. Now, I don't need to do this, but I will. If I were, well, it's not a matter of if, I know, right? If I had to do, when I do a dark triad test, okay, yeah, I'm high Machiavellian. Yeah, I've always been into strategy. It's where I was, where I got to what would be regarded success in my work life, professional life. When it comes to gaming, I was always playing RPGs or real-time strategy. I'm a really good chess player. Like I thrive on strategy, you know, and I treat everything that's going on at the moment as like a game. Sit there, look at data points, game things out, which way things are going, and all the rest of it. I'm also a big component within studying game theory. Now, if this is the first time you've heard of game theory, well, I suggest you go check that stuff out. I've mentioned this many times, but you need to understand what an uncooperative game is and a zero-sum game, okay? Because if you understand that, you're going to be able to utilize that as a frame of reference to actually see where you are or where someone is actually placing you on your board. It's all good and well to be naive and thinking that everyone is all cooperative, but that's just fantasy. Okay. Now here's one, right? And this goes for everything, even ourselves, is that where is our frame? Okay, because if you were to have a look out there in the world of talking heads at the moment, it's very easy to see, were they once more subscribed to being left? Were they more subscribed to being anarchist? Were they more subscribed to being what would be regarded as conservative or traditional in values? Because that's going to give you a determination upon where their actual core values really are and what was the event that actually shifted them. Because what you'll find is a lot of them just end up being fence sitters, and a fence sitter is going to not have fixed values or principles. They're going to flow like the wind. Yeah, whatever is trending, they will jump on. They'll utilize words, twist them around. There's no actual basis or foundation upon where they actually see things. And more often than not, they do lean over to more of an emotional intelligence or EQ emotionalism to protect the fragile sense of their character, because they can't actually draw a line, stand on it, because therefore they may be wrong. Well, in the real world, being wrong and falling over is actually how you learn. And if you get caught up in these blue light fantasy type of things, it's just an echo chamber reinforcing a Dunning-Kruger like effect. And anybody that you see outside of your little Skinner box, you're going to see as an enemy. You're not even prepared to actually listen to them. And within that, which is what we have so much of today, oh, they just need to do inner child work. What happened to them? Oh, they have mummy issues. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, great. Where did you get your certificate in psychology from? You didn't. All right. Where did you get your subject matter expertise from? Oh, you dated a narcissist, did you? Okay. But if I was to ask everybody, well, 100 people, was their ex a narcissist? A good 90% of them would put their hands up. But even within Australia, what is it? 3.2% of the whole population is a narcissist. So where is actually your true frame of reference upon? Are you actually learning? You know, here are these things. The mindset that one actually has, you know, is it actually developed? You know, how was it developed? Does it come from actual higher learning, from intelligence, or developing? You know, that's a key component. Yeah, one part to be able to see that is someone that can actually build things out, have a conversation, and want to do so from a form of knowledge, because we learn from each other. Yeah, that's a key part. Or is it an overinflation of one's capabilities that has never actually been tested in the real world? Once again, falling into this, have a lot to say about lives that have never been lived or experiences that they've never had, but somehow have positioned themselves as an expert of, you need to do what I say because I say it, and if you don't, you're bad, and because you're bad, that must mean that let's throw out the script. You know, it's fucking insane, but it's the reckoning in the game that we're in right now. The other one, yeah, is this here. Yeah, and this one hurts whenever I've mentioned this, so I'll be a little bit gentle. Yeah, seems to be this title at the moment that I've done my research. Great, awesome. I can give 2 thumbs up to that. Where did you get your research from? Okay, because I have always struggled with somebody that utilizes, I've done my research, but then when you go, well, what were you like at school? And, you know, I was never good at school, but when I went to night school and university and actually had to do those types of things and Harvard referencing and all the rest of it, I needed to go and seek out a tutor and a consultant to actually develop that skill, which then bled into other areas of my life of being able to sort out data, where information is actually coming from, and build that out. But today we just have this, well, I've done my research. What does that even fucking mean? Does that mean that you've watched a YouTube video for half an hour and then written some things down, now do a video and repeat what you've actually said? Is it actually, from a place of being tested? Is it an informed objection based upon data, or is it just a reactive parroting to fit inside a confirmation bias? Now, I'm going to give an example. I gave one last week and I had some joker reach out to me, but what's the point? Okay, the COVID trophy holders, drum roll for you guys. I watched so many, fall into this. There was no such thing as a virus. Viruses don't exist. The biolab, blah, 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 blah. It's all a psyop. It's all the rest of these types of things. But if they were who they say they are in relation to researching and knew how to actually get outside of Google and into Tor, you would see that there was something else really going on in relation to the bioweapon, not just out of Wuhan, but what's going on in Ukraine. And you've had an absolute legend, Dr. Jack Cruz. It's the first time you're hearing about that man. Highly recommend you go and have a listen to him. Love Jack. He's old school. Don't suffer no fools. And he has the right to be able to speak from the place that he is of an authority because he knows his shit. He builds it all the way back. And Robert Kennedy Jr. wrote a book that, goes from Fort Detrick's out to Wuhan, and Dr. Jack Cruz goes from Fort Detrick's all the way back. It's a very big story. All of these people that yell and scream truth, integrity, honesty, shadow work, and all the rest of it, where is their rebuttal upon maybe I got that wrong? Maybe the people I was attacking, telling them that they didn't know what the fuck they were talking about. Where are the actual rebuttals of any of that? That's right, fucking crickets. Yeah. Lost in a blue light prison upon 3 minute fucking, not even 3 minute, 3 second goldfish brain. Oh, Grant, you're on one tonight. I am, because there's no more time for fucking around, legends. Game is on. And are you going to be a player in the big game, which we're going to speak about shortly, or do you recognize the reckoning and go, I know where I need to be and I know what my true capabilities are? All right. The next one is, does one actually know how to work a problem? Yeah. And be able to build it out? And if not, do you know how to actually formulate questions and find someone that can help you out with actually answering that question and give you a pointer in the right direction? Can you actually take direction? Or you'll once again live in this Dunning-Kruger wetware programming that's been injected into us, where we think we actually know everything, but undercover, it's all this basically big pseudo type of conundrum. The other one as well, which is, I've got to be in my bonnet with this one at the moment, a big one. And that has to do with principled action with respect. Now, maybe I'm showing my age here, but I remember a time, and I live by this code. It was ingrained into me, can almost say belted into me. I know some folks out there, the kids shouldn't be hit, but I was a boy who was a bit of a fuck up that, that was a way of kind of being taught, and learnt respect real fucking quick. But principled action and respect actually means that I may not like someone upon what they speak about or what they do or whatnot like that. But if they're principled in their actions upon which way they go about it, they have my respect. They've put time, they've put energy, and they've stood firm upon their commitment to what it actually is that they see and what is true for them. I'm all about it. I'll fucking stand even behind them, even if I don't like them. There's a level of respect. And I learned that a lot in business as well. Yeah. There were some people I just did not get along with. We bumped heads personality wise, frame wise, all the rest of it. But at the end of the day, when it came down to it, there was a mutual level of respect in mano a mano in the man's world. And that's what it was really all about. And here we are at this time where that seems to just be, principles and values are like a fleeting moment, depending upon what type of trends are being spoken about, what type of words are being thrown out there that are going to get clicks or whatnot like that. It's getting fucking wild, absolutely wild. And I am going to bring up the Tate situation because I think it's great because it's brought a whole heap to the town square. And once again, you can kind of see what's what if you get out of your emotions and actually see things. Okay, Tate's Tate. You either love him, you hate him, whatever it is. You have to respect the man. But here's what I find so hilarious: those that would consider themselves spiritual and are all about embodied leadership, whatever the fuck that means, masculine embodied leadership, whatever the fuck that means, still yet to hear consent's version of it that has any basis in reality by someone who has actually been in a leadership role or has been tested under the forge rather than some type of talking utopia. But that aside, but let's just have a look at Tate, okay? Tate's frame is a fighter, okay? Warrior, world champion kickboxer. His father was into chess. His father was high IQ, CIA, that he's told that story. But it seems to be this thing by the spiritual community at the moment that he needs to do inner child work and he needs to integrate his anima and animus, all of his therapy talk. Yeah. Well, it's funny because a lot of those folks have never lived at all. Yeah, they've never been through anything. Anything they've been through is a fucking breakdown on. Yeah, absolutely, bro. A performance on for the socials. Yeah, when it comes to being tested in the real world, like, have they been betrayed? Has their body been broken? Have they been rejected? Have they had their whole shit just fucking crumble? Yeah, and had to actually get through it when no one was around. Not having enough money for food. Like, there's so many different things in relation to that. But these folks that have this virtue type of empathy, a lot of them haven't even been through that experience. Yeah, they've never lifted the tit of the mum's skirt, and then found themselves in relationships, and then want to speak about individuation and all the rest of these things that feels good, sounds good, but it's all just talk. Because in the real world of the forge, it has never been tested. But I throw this one here, okay? Because when it comes to someone like Tate, yeah, Tate is fucking just straight up stoic, yeah? You can say the brute force of a Western man. And what a lot of people forget, even though that there's a lot of fuckery that's going on, does anybody know what the most powerful and strongest fighting force the world has ever seen? Drum roll. That is right, the principled Western man. And why have we gone and done that so many times? Yeah, what is that really about? Yeah, we, the Western man, made and conquered the world. Was it right with what happened? Yeah, there was some other things in play. But the safety net of the society that everybody is in right now is built by the blood, sweat, yeah, being able to taste the salt from your sweat, not your tears. That there, and this is the reckoning, yeah, because there's been no gratitude, no recognition, no nothing for a long period of time. But everyone has these ideas upon what to do, but no one wants to actually have a conversation, do they? At all. I'll get into that at the moment. But here we go with Tate. So he needs to integrate his inner child and his anima and animus. Okay, cool. All right, let's have a look at that. So would you say that the feminine principle is about creating? Yes. Okay. It's created quite a lot of things, helped out a lot of people. Great. Okay. But because it doesn't fit your version of it, it's not that, is it? Okay. Great. We're gonna get to these clowns in a moment. And then when it comes to the feminine imperative with nurturing, well, does he nurture in a place of loyalty all of those that are close to him and around him? What's the language that comes out about that continually? Yeah, from stand-up people. So what the fuck are you talking about here? You know, what is actually really being spoken? Because it's not in this box of this EQ, anima, animus, all of these types of lingo, that means it's bad. But at the same time, I'm supposed to believe anything that comes out of your mouth when you talk about freedom, sovereignty, authentic self, authenticity, and all the rest of these other buzzwords that get thrown around, when in reality, you're still playing an Ahab and Jezebel type of archetypal play that's all a control matrix based around this type of nonsense here that isn't backed upon absolutely anything. Besides your awakening journey, what were you doing before that? Twiddling thumbs, doing fuck all. You know, like, where are we actually at? And this is the game and the reckoning really at play at the moment. Are you really able to see things as they are, or going to jump on these bandwagons that are being driven by this nonsense that's going on with the algorithm that's doing people's thinking for them, and they're just emoting? And the moment that there is a question or a challenge or a debate, it turns into all of this feel good, sound good type of circus. But who are these people outside of the safety net of the cotton wool that they've created with their digital persona? I know, because I've been around these people and they don't like me because I only tolerate their bullshit for so long. And when it turns into stop spitting on my cupcake and tell me it's frosting, the same script comes out. Blah, 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 blah. Then the wrap up smear campaigns come out. Then the lies come out. And then the things that didn't even happen come out. And then everyone, even those, it becomes like this cult. We've been through that a few times. And this is what's hilarious in the space at the moment, because a lot of people out there seems this narrative at the moment, yeah, that men need to share their emotions and their vulnerability. Well, how many times go and ask a guy, has he actually gone and done that, and that they're being turned and weaponized against him, and had all of his friendship circle turn on him because they're too scared to go against what the titty committee have essentially created as a figment of their imagination. So don't sit there and speak fucking dribble when it comes to the real world of being tested. No one's really there. No one's really paying attention. It's all of this ratchet type shit, because ultimately the big game in town is the financial system, yeah? And you're watching the Rockefeller and the Rothschild architecture of the old world imploding in on itself. It has been for quite some time. Now, I've spoken at length for years about rolling events, and here we are, like, they're stacked up like a fucking pancake, yeah? One little thing and it pop, 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 pop. There was a massive data point that happened last week. Trump turned around and said, I'm no longer funding the World Trade Organization. No one's speaking about it at all. And I had to check this, because I do keep a little bit of a log, even though it sounds like I'm a bit ad hoc and all the rest of it. But I was speaking about this very early on in the piece, yeah, 2021 in Feb, that would be a key marker, because what does that mean? Well, that means that Trump, yeah, the US, has essentially turned around and gone, fuck you to the whole United Nations architecture of the World Trade Organization, all the free trade agreements, all the rest of those types of agreements that have been done under that umbrella are essentially go fuck yourself. Okay, now I'm Australian. I'm not in Australia at present, but once again, yeah, talking heads not telling anybody what's really at play. You've had China with their most powerful naval vessel, which is supposedly the most powerful in the world, in Australian waters doing tests. Okay, what are they doing? They're starting to flex. Yeah, it's starting to push Australia into something. What would that be? Okay, Australia is about to head into this leadership crisis across the board. Now, remember this, yeah? The social contract between the people and the government is the constitution. Canberra has essentially been wiping their ass with that since 1985. What does 1985 have in store, Grant? Well, 1985 is when Keating turned around and basically said to the Australian banks that you guys are allowed to go and loan money from overseas banks, floated the currency, superannuation, all the rest of this type of stuff. And that's, you have a look at a lot of the dramas that are social dramas today within society have their origin point at that period of time. Now, to all the conspiracy people out there that seem to know everything about everything, why aren't you guys actually speaking about that and the other people that were involved in those such deals? Who are those people? It's very easy to just rattle off the who's who in the zoo, but if you really want to understand who's actually really in control of Australia, you would know what that is about. It's like fucking nothing out there. Nothing. So what does this actually mean? Okay, here it is, drum roll. At some point, and I think a lot quicker than a lot of people realize, is that the US are going to pull out their operational command within NATO and the EU, and it's going to become about the Pacific theater. Okay, Australia will be on show. With what you're seeing in relation to Canada and Greenland, this is the moment that Australia is going to have its comeuppance. What do we actually do? There's going to be a massive power vacuum. What actually goes on there? There are so many conversations that need to be taking place, and I don't think a lot of people are doing just desserts upon what does that actually look like at all, and it's pretty massive. If you were to spend even half an hour of actually just gaming some of the things that I spoke to you about, what does that actually mean to so many different things in Australia? And if you want to get into the, let's say, corruption side of things, well, you're going to need to pick your lane, because it's this globalization game is over. And what the CCP, which ultimately is a Rockefeller and British operation, have utilized Australia as a piggy bank to build out that type of infrastructure. What does that actually look like? All the NGO money that's been coming in. How is it that Australia is in so much debt to China when some of our biggest construction companies are CCP owned? Isn't it funny that they're doing all of the biggest contracts? The government is loaning money from the same entities that are doing it. It's like this one big pickup scheme. And then it's very easy to get into a place of, ideological subversion. Well, you kind of fucking don't. Yeah. And I think it's about time that maybe just have a ponder about that, because part of this crisis in leadership, and I'm being honest with you, okay? Yeah. Who is actually throwing down information and knowledge that is setting you up to get through that power vacuum, but also understand the amazing opportunity it is for men of knowledge and muses to go, you know what? Fuck all of this bullshit. We're going our own way. I'm not going to get caught up in the he said, she said kind of nonsense by people who have never lived, have all of these grand ideas that's never been reality tested, that sit there and blah, 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 blah. but what is actually their subject matter expertise, except parroting what they feel and think, is actually of importance. Now let's get into the boy conversation. Once again, it's hilarious. And thank Tate for this. And what's going on with that is that you go and have a chat to a 15, 16-year-old boy at the moment. Yeah, and actually have a listen. Not just one, go and have a listen to a few of them. You'll go, hang on a moment, this is pretty messed up. But if you were to have a listen to a lot of these talking heads, they seem to have all the answers. But that answer is always the same, isn't it? About how they, in their infinite wisdom, need to do this and do that without, once again, any consultation about anything. And any people who actually have the merit to actually add something to the conversation that might be a little bit prickly. Oh no, can't have that. We need safe spaces, don't we? And they haven't integrated their inner child, and you know they're not embodied, and blah 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 blah. Where the fuck are we at as people, particularly of the West? And this is this picking of the lane time, you know, meeting the moment. Because the game is very, very real. Yeah. And unfortunately, a lot of people are all in on the wrong number. It's very easy at the moment to get caught up in the theatrics of truth attainment and all the rest of the theater that's actually going on without really coming to a deeper understanding that there's actually a lot more in your control if you start to put things on the table of their known unknowns. What can I actually do? And as things, you know, really start to get tricky, you know, there's an opportunity for a new domain of knowing, a new octave. And, you know, to the spiritual community, which I don't know, I've never really been a part of. I'm not a good new ager or anything like that. A little bit too, don't spit on a cupcake and tell me it's frosting type of lad. But you can do all the inner work and all the shadow work and all the rest of the things. Yeah, I'm all for that. But if you walk out there in the real world and you have no functionality but to sit there and play these games to try and get people to fit into your frame of the world, the word freedom should be, you need to go and have a look at what that is in the dictionary. You need to go and have a look at the word you use a lot of is sovereignty as well, or authentic self, or all the rest of these things, because you're so far removed from it that it's almost delusional. And those that actually are committed to being in their center and having the fucking courage to say what they mean and mean what they say, and actually enter a conversation where, yeah, things can get a little bit prickly and all the rest of it. But if you're there in good faith and wanting to learn, like, you get to test the measure of a man. You get to test the measure of a woman. And that's where you build respect, where you're like, yeah, you know what? Fucking, you can come and be on my team in the foxhole anytime, motherfucker, because I'm in. Lines drawn, ready to go. But a lot of these others that believe that the sweat is actually tears that come down, like, what do you think's going to do when shit starts to really get hectic? Well, they're going to have to sit there and do breath work, hold my hand, sing some kumbaya, pull out the fucking sage, or I need to integrate my shit. What the fuck are you talking about at the layer of the game that we're at right now? Oh, Grant, I can feel your pain. What is it? You need to integrate your shadow. You've got some mummy wounds, all the rest of it. My relationship with my mother is fine. I have no fucking problems. And if you want to keep on playing the psychoanalytical game just to hide your own fraudster with a pseudo identity that you've created, you're not worth, but like, where the fuck are you really at? So where I'm getting to, yeah, you can see I'm quite passionate at the moment, because it's at the point where we're on the precipice, and when's enough, where the line is going to be drawn, where you feel comfortable with inside the boundaries that you've created not for other people, but this is my lane. This is what I'm about. And I see who's who in the zoo. And when the time comes, can I actually do something? You know, and I'll just get back to Tate at the moment as well, because this isn't spoken about. Yeah. And this is what I mean by testing and measuring. Let's utilize the Palestinian situation. Okay. A lot of people are up in arms about it and all the rest of it. Okay, cool. Okay. Yelling and screaming, you know, pick your theater. Ask them, have they donated $1 to the causes that they get clicks about? Listen to the responses. I ask these questions. Listen to the responses that you get. There's no accountability. It's just justification. It's like I just asked a simple question, yeah, and then it turns into me. Oh, but what about you? It's like, well, you have no idea I wouldn't say sacrifice, but yeah, I do what I say. I do. Yeah, my hard earned, my energy goes into certain things to do things. So what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. What are you talking about? Like, are you committed enough to put some of that energy, currency, life force, even though it's fictional, but you've got that through your own energy? Are you putting it into that arena, or is it just fucking lip service once again? Because it's a test and measuring of a person, you know, how actually committed they are with their own energy. Can they contribute? And I don't want no credits or anything like that. Why do I do that? Because it's a mental thing for me. It's a centered thing for me. When I speak about something, I know in my heart, yeah, in my soul, that I have the right to contribute something to that conversation. But all the rest of these, where the fuck is it really at? Because they fall apart every single time. Every single time. Yeah. It's comical. Oh, Grant, you're having a crack at a lot of these people. Yeah, because you need a bit of and hopefully some of you might be having a bit of a chuckle tonight that might tighten up the ship and actually go, fuck, he's onto something here, because there's only so far things can get to. But if I do not know where my center is, and my heart, my words, and my brain aren't in an accordance, who am I as a person? Like, that there is the bedrock of the Western man and his muse. Like, this is the Renaissance. I'm fucking excited. So everyone should be. Yeah, we've got to tighten up our shit and get real, but what an amazing opportunity. Here you are. You want an initiation? It's happening in real time. Are you going to grab that flame internally, spark it with a torch, stake your claim and go, here the fuck I am. I am a player on the game. I know my role. I know my capabilities. I know exactly where I'm at. Let's lock up. Let's go. I'm in. Or is it going to be all of the fantasy and you blue light utopian type of nonsense? Like, it's a get real quick time. You know, and I can speak like this at the moment because I sense it. I'm having conversations. People are thirsty for fucking realness again. People are thirsty for the direct old school tongue. Like, just give it to me straight. Give me the velvet sledgehammer. Yep, I'm going to grab that. I'm going to run with it. If I've got a question, can I give you a call? Fucking oath you can. You got me. Let's go. Yeah, that's the internal flame of the real work. This forever emoting shadow work of some things that happened of an ancient story. Are they scars that have turned into sigils, or are they scars of an emoting tactic to sit there and play around in this fraud ship that we actually call social media, where everyone is pretending to be somebody that they're not and we claim it as authentic self? Like, what are we fucking doing? Enough of that little lingo, because I will leave you guys with this, because it is of serious proportion. You know, the game. I'll give you guys context. Okay, so This is a few years ago now. I was, can say called in, okay, as a consultant, and some shit had gone down in the business where there'd be massive fraud take place. There was a lot of dodginess. It was inherited through an acquisition. It was a shit show, an absolute shit show. But within inside of that, there was good people, and the bloke who was in charge of it, he called me in, one, because he knew how I operated and we worked well together and we could yell and scream at each other, yeah, like men shit, because he knew that I wouldn't just toe the line, challenge him and he would challenge me, and both have an issue with following direct instructions sometimes unless it's laid out. But what needed to happen was that, as much as the board wanted it done super quick, it couldn't happen that way because the operational integrity of that business unit would have collapsed. So there had to be a change in management. There had to be a change in systems. There had to be a change in processes. But all of those changes had to be, the standards had to come from the employees. So there was a period of time of having to see who was on board, who had what talents, who actually within inside the operational standpoint of the business could be elevated to a management role and, let's say, work with me where I could help them develop skills, but at the same time too, their connection to the operation, to the customers, clients, and even within the team, that morale could be built and built out. We originally forecasted that for like 12 months, but we were able to get it done in about 8. And when that, let's say, 6-month period come, that's when a lot of the nonsense that needed to be spoken to the customers about the fraud and a lot of the bad shit actually was able to come out. Was the board sitting on that? Yes. Was it like a heavily guarded secret? Absolutely it was. Now, you on the other side of this might have been like, but why didn't it all come out all at the same time? Well, you needed to have the integrity of the business unit being working with inside the parameters for it to be a well-oiled machine before, one, clients could know all the rest of it, but two, it moving to the direction that it needed to be in to actually be what it was originally inquired for. You are watching not just in the US, but within Australia as well, you would be looking at so much of the political theatre that at some point you're going to have a lot of the things that a lot of people are up to speed with begin to roll themselves out. I know a lot of people are, but I just want it now because they want heads. Okay, great. But this is what I mean by having some type of subject matter expertise or some type of intelligence within inside how the mechanisms would that work. Like, even within, I'll mention this one now because I know this to be fact. Okay, fact. Everyone wants the like Epstein list. Okay, why is it taking so long? Blah blah blah. Well, it needs to come out in a very particular way, as almost like an education, because everyone is sitting there thinking that it's an Epstein situation. It's actually not. Okay, there was other, let's say, groups running those types of operations. It was CIA. It was not just them. It was faction utilizing those types of things as cover that had other means up there, down there, and all the rest of it. But we want that now. People want heads. What you're seeing, particularly in the US with USAID, which is going to roll here in Australia, you need to turn off the actual systems and oil the operations to get them all back under one type of office again. And that is happening. extremely fast. But then at some point, the other situation in relation to NATO and all the rest of it, because the stuff that's been going on there hasn't quite come out yet in relation to the money laundering side of things, which is a lot bigger than a lot of people can even comprehend. And I think Panama Papers version 3, when that comes out, that's going to be massive. I know a lot of people are going to be wanting heads, but if you're looking at that as a data point, you can actually see which way it's going. Which way is it going, Grant? This whole WEF, globalization, New World Order, old type of architecture, we're not going that way. Are parts of that system going to be able to be utilized? And are they being utilized? Yes. But what does that mean? Well, let's utilize Australia, for instance. Would Australia need to turn itself off from some of its dodgy as trade deals? Yes. Would some of the companies that have been sold out actually be reintegrated back into the Commonwealth? Yes. Will citizens that have become, without themselves knowing, a part of the corporation to securitize some of that debt that happened from 1985 end up being rolled back into the Commonwealth? Yes. Is that going to happen overnight? No. Is it going to look the way that everybody thinks? Probably not. So there's a lot there to really consider. Now, I'm giving you guys game, yeah, because where one actually sees their own opportunity within this and positioning themselves there, and also understanding from the metaphysical and spiritual element of this, is that the energies, yeah, and the reality mechanics of what was once is no longer in effect. Okay, what is an equivalent exchange system that is balanced by cause and effect? If you shift your mindset to that, and from an internal logos perspective, your heart, your words that you echo, and your mind are as close as they can be to being in some type of octave of resonance, who actually has more authority in commanding and actually interfacing with a multifaceted, multidimensional realm? Okay, that is the power play of the time and the big game. This is my last thing, and then I'll leave you guys with it. I spoke about this a while ago. I've checked the net. There's only one other person that's utilized that word. Her name is Wendy Kennedy. She has utilized frequency wars. I utilize frequency wars. We're in a frequency war game at the moment. I know a lot of people will be looking at the sky, going chemtrail this and all the rest of it. Okay, you're not actually understanding what frequency is. Go check out wetware program, and some stuff came out last week, and you just seen some dude in China burn what $1.8 million worth of ether to get a message out. Okay, need to understand what wetware programming is and what these actual things are doing to instilling wetware programming and coercive language that is there to manipulate and change actual word structure to get one to automate their responses from a reactive nature, purely driven from emotion. Yeah. There's a reason why no one wants Stoic anymore. There's a reason why people don't want Machiavellian no more. People don't want strategic thinkers anymore. There's a reason for that. It's very, very big. If you want to go down the fucking rabbit hole, I highly recommend you do so, because the moment you see it, you cannot unsee it. And when you know what it actually is, well, then you can do something about it. And that there is a precipice of this psychological fallout. Now, let's have a look at what's going on in the US at the moment with the Teslas. You know, you've got Karens and fucking whatever. You can be driving your Tesla and someone's going to come up and knock on your window and decide to draw on your car. Okay, it's been going on for a couple of weeks now. What do you think's going to happen when they go and knock on a door to some green beret that's packing? Do you think that there's going to be an absolute shit show that unravels? Absolutely. Absolutely. Going to burn down buildings, even like recently, these late night show hosts. This is building, building, and building. And it's all over the place in Europe, all over the Western world. And this psychological fallout type of stuff is actually justified within one's own thinking. There is no getting around it. No one is immune. The only way you've got some type of immunity to it is knowing your center, looking at things and going, does that actually need my focus and my attention, or is it actually best off over here on my purpose or on a project, or me actually understanding the game that I'm truly in and spending my intent and my focus and my will in that direction? It's very, very fucking important. Yeah, because once again, and lastly, the land of confusion. You see it all around you. And if you're honest, you can look in the mirror at the moment and go, I've got a bit of maybe a bit of brain fog. I've got my own confusion. Like, what actually is this? There's some questions to consider. And the other two subject matters I just spoke about are very real. No one is immune. But within the land of confusion, part of that has more of a choice than anything else. And, Michael Tazarian, once said famously, and that man deserves a lot more respect than what he's been given. If a man is in his center, he cannot be hypnotized. So what are these rituals, the routines, and the discipline that you've actually got in play to be here in your center? Or is it all about this, I need to heal, I need to clear, I need to somatic, all of this, let's say, spiritual psychology talk, not a metaphysical side of things? And you can go and type this in even into ChatGTP. Just type this in. What is spiritual psychology and what is metaphysical psychology, or even spiritual psychology versus metaphysical psychology? Just type those two things in and you see the characteristics between them and what they actually encompass, and utilize that as an evaluation piece. Yeah, because the coming into your own philosophy, yeah, you knowing your principles upon where you actually stand and your values that are true to you, yeah, there's an alchemical change that happens to the internal logos of your own fire. Yeah, like that is how you know who you are. It does not need to be the same as everybody else, but it is, who you are. Yeah. And you know what you're going to stand for, and you know what you're going to stand against. And you know what you're going to tolerate to a point until you go, fuck you, Jabu, that ain't happening on my watch. You can fuck off with your bullshit now. And, have a fucking spine, because people are going to always have something quick to say, particularly those, once again, repeating, maybe write this down, that have a lot to say about lives they've never lived or experiences they've never had, that seem to, their values and their principles and are never actually, let's say, grounded or have a foundation. There's these words of embodied leadership. Like I can understand it to a point, but when it gets like the words are of it now, and I see the people who claim that to be, and I see their frame, I have questions, because I know for a fact, being there at those tables, that they can't look you in the eye. They don't understand what it's like. Hang on, like, I'm a man's man. I'm a Western man. We need to test each other here to find out where that where that friction is, man. I need to know. You need to know where we both stand intellectually, where you're actually tested, what's actually going on here, because the smokes and mirror show is full of shit. And ultimately, that there is the game in the reckoning. You can choose what you want to take out of this evening, or have whatever it is that you want to say, but it really is game time, and it is exciting. You are here, yeah, not by fucking fluke chance chosen for one of the most epic moments in human history. What game are you playing? What is your role? Truly, not what you think you want it to be, what you're actually capable of doing. Yeah. Is it even just having a kind word to somebody, a random, dropping a pearl of knowledge that they're not going to get at the time, but maybe in a few months' time, having some extra food in the freezer, knowing that if shit gets wild, that you can feed some folks, give them your medicine. Yeah, like, what is true to the foundations upon who we are as a people that have been fucked with, that have forgotten the greatness that has got us to this point, even though we've been fucking handicapped. Like, just think about that for a moment. If we're able to get rid of the handicap and have enough men of knowledge and muses that are able to have the difficult conversations and go, that social contract is no longer fucking valid, we're going this way. And there's no stopping that. And there have been moments within our history, moment after moment. Have they been co-opted and fucked with every time? Yes. But one of the great ones is the last holy document that was created, which is the US Constitution and the Bill of Rights. And do yourself a favor, go and check out some of those stories, particularly some of the men and their wives, what they endured, what they went through. But they had a bigger vision. There was something else driving them. There was a force of greatness and goodness that was a seed. And here we are, yeah, half a generation away from it all turning to shit, or half a generation for us living out something that is in a completely different realm of our knowing. And that there is the choice of the times. People are coming into their own knowing of that, their own knowledge of it. And there are some that are all in on their own insanity. And that's okay as well, because that's their choice. Hopefully they might spin themselves out by doing the Macarena, the bus stop, and the hokey pokey, or whatever other fucking funky dance that's going on TikTok. They might spin themselves out of their dizziness. Great. That's their initiation. That's their right. But here we are. Like, I'll see you there, legends. I'll see you there. And who's fucking who and who's not. And if you've got it in you and that flame needs a little bit more fire, well, go and have a listen, or go and have a read of those who have done something with themselves and been reforged into something else. Whether you want to call that a living myth, whether it's going through an actual living archetypal initiational process, not some weekend warrior workshop where I now tune into my lover. I'm now tuning into my warrior. I'm now a magician. Okay, great. Where did those stories start from? Do you know them? Do you know the myths, the bards, the legends of where this originates from? And I suppose, you know, I have an endearment to Ireland. I have that's there running through me, even though I'm a bit whiter in my beard these days, but I do have the bronze. And to see, as what I was saying before, the Protestants and the Catholics forget about that. What's actually in fucking important? What is important? Can we meet there and forget about all of the nonsense? It's game time, legends. So I'll leave you all with that. And you will start to see more of me over the next little period of time with both Magus and pushing out some more, I wouldn't say pushing out, but making myself more available for mentoring and some strategic counsel. You know, all of my data points suggest that everyone's thirsty for real again. Everyone's thirsty for some direct old school, like, just give it to me straight. I'm done with the fluff. I'm a capable individual. I'm going to get at it. And fuck yeah, about fucking time, you know? Let's get at it, legends. Cheerio.